In the summer of 1984, a woman was found beside a quiet river in the north of China, burned so badly there was almost nothing left to recognize her by. And to nearly everyone standing at that riverbank, it looked obvious. A tragedy. A woman who walked to the water's edge and set herself alight. Case closed before it even opened. But then one police officer spoke up. A man who hadn't been assigned to the case, who wasn't even supposed to be in the room, who had never once set foot at the scene. And he pointed to one small thing, one ordinary object that should have been lying there in the dirt, and simply wasn't. That single observation would go on to tear open not one hidden crime, but three. Welcome to Paws&Clues with Ajax. I'm Ajax, every case leaves a trace, and today we're following one of them. Our story takes us to the 26th of July, 1984, to the city of Liaoyuan in Jilin province. And I need you to keep something in mind the whole way through this one. Back then, forensic science in this part of the country was crude. A lot of the tools we take for granted today just didn't exist yet. And that matters, because it's a huge part of why this case got as tangled as it did. Around midday, the local police get a report. Out in the southern outskirts near the Weijin River, beside a cornfield, someone has found a severely burned body. Officers rush out, more than 10 li from the populated center, into the middle of nowhere. The remains are those of a woman, lying on the south bank beside a sandy flat. No clothing, no shoes. And the first examination paints a grim picture. A woman around 30 years old, a little over 1.60 meters, burns across more than 80% of her body, the worst of it on the front and the face. But here's the first strange detail. Her hands are barely touched by the fire, and they carry no wounds at all. Then the examiner looks deeper, into the nose, the mouth, the throat, all the way down into the airways, and finds them heavy with soot and carbon, and no trace of drowning fluid. Now think about what that means. Soot that deep inside means one terrible thing. She was still alive, still breathing when the fire took hold. Her passing is placed on the evening of the 25th. There are no injuries to her head. The skin of her neck has peeled away, but there's no ligature line, no marks of a grip, no bruising underneath, and no defensive wounds on her hands. And on the surface, every bit of that points one direction: a woman overcome by flames. The ground seems to agree. There are two scorched areas. The first about 9 meters south of the bank, with fragments of burned clothing and hair. And then, further south into the cornfield, under a tree, a much larger burn site. More scraps of clothing, and a single red high-heeled sandal, almost new. And its size matches the dead woman's foot. Officers follow the prints that sandal left behind, and they find her footsteps wandering through the cornfield in a restless, pacing pattern, and trace them to the bank, where they recover the matching second sandal. And stranger still, those shoe prints show up not only on the south side where she burned, but on the north bank across the river too. So they build a reconstruction. The fire starts under the tree. The woman, alight, runs on pure instinct toward the water. She falls after a couple of meters, which makes the second burn area. She struggles to the river's edge, and she collapses, having breathed in too much smoke. Clean story, fits the scene. Except for one quiet contradiction that nobody can quite explain. There is no river water in her airways, as if she reached the bank and stopped breathing in the very same instant. Because her face is destroyed and resources are thin, the body is buried right there at the scene, and the officers head back to hold a case meeting. And as they talk it through, the room leans towards suicide. Partly the examination, no external wounds, a death by fire. Partly those pacing footprints, which a lot of them read as a woman gathering her courage, especially since there's no second set of prints, no sign anyone else was ever there. And right then, a police officer speaks up against the whole room. His name is Sun Yujin, and here's the thing, he didn't come for this case at all. He came in to report a completely different matter, and he's never even been to the scene. But listen to his objections, because they're sharp. First, he says, setting yourself alight is one of the most extreme, slow, agonizing ways to go, and most people would choose something faster. There's a river right there. Drowning would have been the obvious path. But it's his second point that lands hardest. If this woman really set herself on fire, then there has to be a container somewhere at the scene. A bottle, a can, a bucket, something that held whatever fuel started the fire. And there is nothing, no container anywhere. And don't tell him it floated off down the river, because the first fire point sits more than 10 meters from the water's edge. So Sun says it plainly. No container means this might not be a suicide at all. It might be a crime, staged to look like one. And yes, there are no other footprints, but a fire that devours 80% of a body could easily erase the traces someone else left behind. And one more thing that bothers him. Why would a hesitant woman about to end her own life wade all the way across from the north bank to the south when there's no difference between the two sides? The chief listens to all of it, and he makes a decision. If Sun's analysis is that sharp, then Sun had better take the case himself. And just like that, it lands on his shoulders. And Sun does what a lot of detectives of that era did when they meant it. He swears that if he can't crack this case, he'll leave the force. But 1984 does not make it easy. When Sun gets there, the body that had been buried at the scene has been dug up by a stray dog and has to be reburied. And worse, a crowd of onlookers has trampled the ground. There are men's shoe prints all around the burn site, but there's no telling which came from the night of the crime and which came from curious villagers. So Sun has to widen his search, figuring that in a spot this remote, whoever did this might have left a trace somewhere else. And about 50 meters west of the burn site, he finds it. A sweet potato field where the soil shows clear signs of a struggle, and lying there in the dirt, a single woman's sock. Fairly new. And here's what stops him. The dead woman was wearing sandals with no socks. This sock matches her size. It's clean and new, not something tossed out long ago. So what is it doing in a field 50 meters from where she burned? He can't answer that yet. So he turns to the one thing that cracks most cases in this era, the victim's identity. Name her, and the whole thing usually opens up. And since people move around far less back then, Sun and his fellow officers start riding 22 to 25 miles a day, village to village, asking after anyone missing. For a while it goes nowhere, and then, on the 5th day, a man comes in to report something. His sister went out on the evening of the 25th. She told him she was going to a clinic for an illness, left her 7-year-old daughter at his home, said a co-worker would drive her back, and she never returned. The police show him what they found, and he recognizes the red sandals immediately, because in the 80s goods were scarce and there were only a few styles to go around. He recognizes the sock too, and the scraps of clothing, and the size and shape of the woman, and he believes it's his sister. Zhao Xiaolian, 35 years old. Zhao Xiaolian worked at the local Dongfanghong textile factory. Her husband, Li Xiangdong, worked at the city supply cooperative, and he had supposedly left on a business trip right before she vanished. The family had no serious feuds, which closes the door on a vengeful enemy. And from what she told her brother, and from the fact that she left her little girl only temporarily, it doesn't look like suicide either. So the picture starts pointing towards something far darker, but there's no proof. So Sun starts pulling on the threads in the brother's account. Did she actually go to a clinic that day? Did a co-worker really drive her? And the answers are telling. She visited no clinic. She invited no co-worker. Which means, on the last evening of her life, Zhao Xiaolian lied to her own family about where she was going. At her home, there's no farewell note, but there is a diary. The last entry is dated the day before, and it's about her husband going off to the city of Changchun on a business trip, and her wondering why he hadn't told her himself, why he'd sent word through someone else instead. And between the lines, you can feel a marriage under real strain. And now the husband, Li Xiangdong, is looking stranger by the hour. Because this is a man who always told his family when he was leaving. This time, he told no one and passed word through a stranger. In those days, People away from home reported that they were safe by letter or telegram, and Li always did. But from the day he supposedly left to the discovery of the body, 11 days have gone by with no contact at all, and he has no relatives in Changchun. So the police go to the supply cooperative, and the answer deepens everything. His superiors never sent him on any trip. The cooperative has no dealings with any company in Changchun, and Li hasn't shown up to work in 11 days. Then a lead pulls the whole case sideways. A co-worker says he once saw a man who looked a lot like Li over in the city of Shenyang, walking close with a young woman. And when the police search Li's desk drawer, they find a photograph. A woman with a love poem written on the back. His girlfriend from 12 years earlier, an old flame. And maybe you're already forming the same theory Sun did, that Li rekindled that romance, ended his own wife's life, and slipped away. It fits neatly. The man hasn't been heard from. It even explains why she lied as she left that night. But the lead collapses in Shenyang. The photo was given years ago. The two lost contact long before. She's married someone else and settled down there. And the co-worker, when they press him, admits he only saw a silhouette. He can't actually say it was Li. So that dramatic lead is a dead end. But someone still has to account for Li Xiangdong. So the police piece together his last movements. Zhao Xiaolian's younger sister crossed paths with him that day. He told her he was going to drink at the home of a man called Xiao Gao and mentioned no trip. He carried no luggage. And the only train to Changchun runs in the dead of night. So if he genuinely meant to travel, he'd have had plenty of time to go home and tell his wife first, which he never did. They find Xiao Gao, a card-playing friend, and learn that Li arrived around 5 and left early, around 6 or 7, saying he had something to do. And nobody knows where he went. The trail breaks off again. But it confirms one thing. Li was not heading to Changchun. He'd most likely gone to meet someone local. So now Sun has a tangle of cases and almost nothing solid. And this is the height of the nationwide crackdown on crime in the early 80s. Officers buried under work. So the chief hands Sun another case in the meantime. A break-in at the Xiangyang construction company. 2 masked intruders forced their way in one night, knocked out the man on duty with wooden sticks, pried open the safe, and burned a whole stack of invoices and receipts. But no money was taken. Nothing of value was touched. It's as if they came only for the paperwork. And that points somewhere. Because back on the 8th of March that year, 8 tons of steel went missing from that same company. The operation was so loose that goods moved on nothing but handwritten slips. And 8 tons of steel could fetch 10,000 yuan, about $1,400, which was an astronomical sum in a year when a worker might earn 10 yuan a month, just over a single US dollar. So when an investigation team formed to comb through the accounts, the masked men showed up and burned the records, which strongly suggests the break-in is tied to that missing steel. The police look hard at the company's own people, but the trail goes cold. Though whoever's behind it is almost certainly one of them. Then the public reports yet another burning. A man's body, hauled up into the hills and set alight. And when the police find it, it's burned down to the bones, and the teeth put the age close to Li Xiangdong's. So maybe this is him. But a long investigation reveals a false alarm. The body is a local miner who died in an accident and was burned on the hill because local custom held that an unnatural death couldn't be buried in the family ground. A dead end. But that mistaken case plants an idea in Sun's head. Because he realizes, again, that a burned body is a body without a name. And the police had quietly confirmed Zhao Xiaolian's identity, but they never made it public. They told her family to keep it secret. So Sun thinks, what if I use that very fact to lure the culprit out? Because whoever set that fire did it precisely so that she would never be identified. So Sun has Zhao Xiaolian's brother play along, and lets it be known that his sister has just been missing a while. Then he arranges for the bureau to formally notify the brother to come in and identify the burned woman. And he waits. And 3 days after that word goes out, a letter turns up, sitting on the windowsill of the home of Zhao Xiaolian's younger sister. The letter is written in Li Xiangdong's voice. It says, Don't worry, that he and Zhao Xiaolian have gone away to Guangzhou, that the family should look after things, especially the child. And there's a murkier passage, hinting that after he said something to the people at the construction company, they came for him. And it says if anyone asks, the family should say nothing. And it ends with a strange instruction. Burn the letter after reading. Now this is plainly a message from someone who knows the truth, and the handwriting confirms right away that Li did not write it himself. And it gives up three things. 1. The news about identifying the body went out only through the brother, yet the letter was placed at the younger sister's window, which means the writer knows this family well. 2. The writer is trying hard to make it seem like Zhao Xiaolian is still alive, so the family won't identify her, which means he knows far more than he's letting on. And 3. That mention of the construction company ties this letter directly to the other case. And when the police ask, the family confirms it. A construction company recently came around asking about Zhao Xiaolian, the very same Xiangyang construction company. And the two cases snapped together in a way nobody saw coming. Because Zhao Xiaolian was a textile worker, and Li worked at the supply cooperative. Neither of them belonged to that company. So why on earth was it asking about them? The answer is in that missing steel. Because during the theft, Li Xiangdong had gone to the company and collected those 8 tons. And since a lot of people came through to pick up goods, the company couldn't be certain it was him, so they came around asking. And when they did, Zhao Xiaolian told them her husband was away on business in Changchun. Now, the company has a section chief named Zhang Zhegang, and the story going around is that it was section chief Zhang who entrusted Li with buying that steel. So Zhang becomes the prime suspect, because his name is the one tying everything together. But when the police take his handwriting, it doesn't match the letter, and neither does any of his friends. Still, the steel is the thread that won't let go, and at Li's workplace, the gatekeeper hands the police a letter that had arrived for Li from a labor service company in Changchun. It says the invoice he provided couldn't be reimbursed, that he'd issued a beer invoice when it should have been one for steel piping. And it's dated the 31st of July, after Li vanished and after the woman burned. So the police go to that Changchun company, and they learn that Li had offered them the steel, the two sides having met on a train. And in the planned economy of the time, building materials were handed out by strict quota, which fed a thriving underground trade in reselling them. The company paid Li 9,400 yuan, about $1,300, and then his invoice came back wrong. And that seals it. Li is tied, beyond any doubt, to those 8 tons of steel. But a job like that is not something Li could have pulled off alone. He wasn't even an employee, which means his accomplices are very likely the people behind these crimes. And the company offers one more detail. After the deal, Li told them Section Chief Zhang could get them as much steel as they wanted, which pushes Zhang's suspicion even higher. And yet, the letter matches neither Zhang nor his friends, so there has to be another hand in this. And here Sun remembers something. On the night Li disappeared, someone carried that Changchun message to his wife, and it was evening, which means Zhao Xiaolian's little daughter was home, and she might have seen the man at the door. Now, the girl had withdrawn into herself after losing her mother and her father. But Sun has a child about her age, and he treats her gently, patiently. And as she slowly comes out from under the weight of it all, she becomes willing to help. So the police mix photographs of Section Chief Zhang and his associates into a big stack, and they ask her to pick out the man who came to the door that night. And she reaches in, and she pulls out a face. And it is not Section Chief Zhang. The man she points to is named Ho Lei Qiang, and he's also from the Xiangyang construction company. Its warehouse keeper, 28 years old. And his parents are both leaders at a local state unit, the kind of background that lands you a comfortable post, which makes him an unlikely sort to be mixed up in any of this. But the girl picked him. His handwriting doesn't match the letter either, so the police widen the net once more to his friends. And there they find their man, a friend named Kong Dong Lin, whose handwriting matches, detail for detail. And when they bring Kong in, he admits it fast. He wrote the letter, but only because Ho Lei-Chang asked him to. Ho told him that Li had gone to Changchun with no time to tell his family, and asked Kong to copy out a letter saying everything was fine. So the police arrest Ho Lei-Chang, and he holds firm at first. But after several days of questioning, he confesses. And here's the story he gives them. He says everything was done on Section Chief Jiang's orders, that Jiang issued Li the pickup slip for the steal, that when the theft was uncovered, Jiang paid Li off and sent him away to disappear, and that Jiang then got scared Li's wife might let the secret slip. So on the night of the 25th, Jiang and Ho lured Zhao Xiaolian out to the cornfield by the river, where Jiang violated her as she lay helpless, before attacking her. And when she begged for her life, Jiang was unmoved and ended it from behind, then told Ho to run. Ho says he fled south, heard a scream, looked back, and saw the fire already rising. And it all fits. Jiang had the motive, and now there's a witness. So the police arrest Section Chief Jiang Zhigang, and it looks like the case is finally solved. But Sun feels a thread out of place, because Ho's account clashes with the physical evidence in one quiet, glaring way. The dead woman's hands were not badly burned, and they carried no wounds. But Ho described her hands bound with wire, which would have left marks, and there were none. Meanwhile, Section Chief Jiang insists flatly that he did neither thing. Not the pickup slip, not the attack. So the only things tying Jiang to any of this are Ho's testimony and the earlier statement of the dead woman herself. And both of them clash with the physical findings. And Sun starts to wonder something uncomfortable. What if Section Chief Jiang is actually innocent? So they question Ho Lei-Chang again, and after several more days, he gives up the real story. And it's this. It was Ho who ended Zhao Xiaoliang's life, and it was Ho who stole the steel. The reason Zhao Xiaoliang ever named Section Chief Jiang traces all the way back to the beginning. The theft was planned by Ho, with Li Jiangdong and Kong Donglin taking part. The three of them forged the pickup order, moved the steel out, and used Li to broker the sale. And Ho, careful and calculating, feared getting caught from the very start. So he had Li tell the Changchun company that Section Chief Jiang could supply any amount they wanted, pinning the whole thing on Jiang from day one, so that if it ever came apart, the trail would lead to Jiang and not to him. And when the investigators began circling, Ho struck first. On the night of the 21st, when Li slipped away early from that card game saying he had something to do, it was Ho who drew him out. Ho struck him down with a hammer and dropped him into an abandoned coal mine shaft, finishing it with a larger stone when Li still moaned. Which is exactly why Li was never found. Hidden in a coal shaft, in a region absolutely riddled with mines, a needle in an endless haystack. After that, Ho went to Li's home and told the wife that the matter had come to light, that he'd sent her husband to Changchun to lie low, and that if anyone came investigating, she had to say Section Chief Jiang gave the pickup slip, or her husband would face a terrible charge and the whole family would suffer. Which is exactly why, when the company came asking, Zhao Xiaoliang said the scheme was Jiang's. But Ho couldn't rest, because he knew hiding Li away was no lasting solution, and he feared Zhao Xiaolian might let the truth out. So he decided to end her life too. And on the 25th, he filled a bucket with gasoline and lied to her, telling her that her husband had come back and that he would take her to see him, which is the errand she covered with the clinic story to her brother. She climbed onto the back of his bicycle and rode with him all the way to the Weijin River. And as they waded across, she slipped off her socks and tucked them in her pocket, crossing in her sandals from the north bank to the south, which is why her prints were on both banks. Once they were across, Ho told her plainly that the matter was exposed, and that today he was going to end her. And when she begged him, pleading that she had a child, he attacked her right there in the sweet potato field, even violating her as she lay completely defenseless, where one of her socks fell into the soil. which is exactly why that field held the signs of a struggle and the lone sock 50 meters away. Afterward, he led her to the small tree, took her by the throat from behind until she stopped moving, poured the gasoline over her and set it alight, and hurried off. And he'd gone only a short way when he heard her scream and turned to see the flames already rising higher than the corn. And that is why his earlier confession had been so vivid. He was recounting his own crime the entire time. He just put Section Chief Jiang in his own place. 3 crimes braided into one. A stolen fortune in steel, a husband struck down and hidden in the dark, and a woman the fire was meant to erase. All of it nearly blamed on a missing man who could never speak for himself, and a section chief who had done none of it. Years later, recounting the case long after it was done, Officer Sun is said to have wept, remembering just how close it came to never being solved at all, and how, in the end, he pulled the truth out of the ashes. Yet, justice did not fail. Hu Lei-Qiang paid the ultimate price for his crimes in 1985, bringing the case to its final legal conclusion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching Paws and Clues with Ajax. I hope you find today's story as haunting as I did, and I'll see you again in the next one.